The long run had already settled into silence when the real message appeared. Not in a purple sector, not in a headline lap, not in a clip designed for social media. Lap after lap under the Bahrain floodlights, with fuel loads shifting and track grip evolving by the minute, Lewis Hamilton's numbers refused to break. While the paddock chased single lap noise, something far more consequential was unfolding inside the race simulations. Ferrari saw it. The analysts saw it. The rivals felt it. Because this wasn't about one perfect lap, it was about control. And what happened during those Bahrain tests was not what the headlines told you. It was quieter, more deliberate, more dangerous. Once you understand what those long runs actually revealed, the entire shape of the 2026 season begins to change. Bahrain was never going to be decided by a single lap time. Pre-season testing is a maze by design. Different fuel loads, different run plans, different tire programs, evolving grip, rising and falling temperatures. On paper, it should produce chaos, but inside that chaos, one pattern held: the long runs. While attention circled around flashes of speed and headline-friendly sectors, Lewis Hamilton was doing something far more revealing. Across multiple race simulations, his pace did not spike and fade. It stabilized, lap after lap, tire after tire. As degradation began its inevitable climb, his delta remained controlled. No early burst followed by drop-off, no visible cliff when the rears began to slide. Just repeatable rhythm. That is where championships are actually decided, because qualifying pace can flatter, race pace cannot. Long runs expose imbalance. They expose instability under tire wear. They expose cars that behave on fresh rubber but unravel under load. In Bahrain, Ferrari did not unravel. When the car entered true race execution mode, heavier fuel, sustained tire stress, Hamilton's numbers placed him at the reference point. Not once, repeatedly. The paddock noticed, quietly. Engineers aligned stint averages, adjusted for track evolution, corrected fuel deltas, stripped away noise. The pattern remained. When it mattered over distance, Hamilton was there. That was the moment everything shifted. Not because it produced headlines, but because it produced belief. And belief inside a team, grounded in data, changes how the entire season is approached. But that wasn't the real story. On the surface, Bahrain looked messy. Different temperatures across sessions. Wind direction changing corner balance. Track evolution adding grip by the hour. Teams running varied fuel programs to conceal intent. It should have blurred conclusions. Instead, the data sharpened them. When analysts removed the low fuel runs, when they filtered out short bursts, when they aligned true race simulations, stint against stint, degradation curve against degradation curve, Hamilton's pace held. That matters statistically. Because fuel burn naturally drops lap time before tire wear pulls it back. The balance between those forces exposes aerodynamic efficiency and mechanical grip under stress. Ferrari's curve was clean. Hamilton's averages did not swing violently. They did not oscillate corner to corner. They flowed. And when track conditions shifted under lights, when grip increased and temperatures dipped, the Ferrari adapted without volatility. That is not normal for an unfinished preseason package. Volatile cars can produce one brilliant lap. Stable cars produce race-winning consistency. In Bahrain, Ferrari looked stable. Even as others showed flashes of outright speed, Hamilton showed something more difficult to manufacture: repeatability. Repeatability is not glamorous. It does not dominate headlines. But over 57 laps on a Sunday, it decides outcomes. The numbers refuse to lie. No matter how analysts introduced variables, fuel corrections, tire compound adjustments, track delta modeling, the conclusion pointed in one direction. When Ferrari committed to full race execution mode, Hamilton was at the top, and this was not achieved in a protected environment. Bahrain testing is intentionally imperfect, which makes resilience more significant, because true performance does not disappear when conditions change. It survives. And when a driver known for strategic intelligence is handed a car that survives over distance, the competitive equation shifts. But the deeper shift wasn't mathematical, it was philosophical. For years, Hamilton's frustration was not about speed, it was about language. Drivers describe cars in instinctive terms. Some require aggression, some reward rotation on entry, others punish patience. Hamilton's ideal platform has always been predictable on turn-in, stable under rear traction, and honest when degradation begins. In Bahrain, Ferrari delivered that philosophy. The new aerodynamic package was not chasing peak downforce figures. It was not designed for dramatic timing screen spikes. It was built for balance. A front end that remains planted through high-speed direction changes. A rear that does not fade as the tire surface begins to grain. A chassis that communicates clearly. You could see it in the way his laps connected. No mid-corner corrections. No snap oversteer on throttle. No visible wrestling with instability. Just rhythm. And rhythm is dangerous, because Hamilton's greatest strength has never been raw aggression. It has been intelligence under pressure. Reading a race 10 laps ahead. Conserving when others burn. Stretching a stint when rivals pit early, striking precisely when the undercut window opens. Those skills only matter if the car allows breathing room. In Bahrain, it did. This was not a driver extracting performance from chaos, it was a driver operating within clarity. And when clarity meets experience, execution becomes surgical. Rivals sense that. They understand what happens when Hamilton stops fighting the car and starts guiding it. Because this version of Hamilton does not chase speed, he dictates tempo. But the most revealing moment of Bahrain did not come during a smooth stint, it came during interruption. What happened in Bahrain did not go unnoticed, even if no one wanted to declare it publicly. Inside debrief rooms, race simulations were compared, fuel-adjusted charts were circulated, degradation curves were studied, one conclusion resurfaced repeatedly. Ferrari, alongside Mercedes, were setting reference pace. And within Ferrari, Hamilton was the benchmark. Rivals understand what that implies. When Hamilton has a car that behaves over long runs, overtakes become strategic inevitabilities. Tire management becomes a weapon. Pressure shifts. Because he does not waste rubber fighting instability, he preserves it. And when rivals begin calculating how to defend against someone who can extend a stint by 3 or 4 laps without pace collapse, strategic models change. Experienced team principals know history. They choose their words carefully when Hamilton smells opportunity. No bold dismissals, no public skepticism, just measured respect. Because this wasn't a testing illusion, it was controlled messaging through data. And data is difficult to argue against. For the first time in years, Hamilton is not asking the car to survive the race, he is asking it to obey, and it is responding, which transforms championships from theoretical to mathematical. But numbers alone do not decide seasons. Execution does. What stood out in Bahrain was not speed at the start of a stint, it was speed at the end. When tire degradation intensifies and fuel load lightens, drivers often oscillate between over-pushing and over-protecting. Hamilton did neither. His lap flow suggested controlled delta management. No aggressive overcorrection. No panic-induced throttle inputs. Just pace held within tolerance. That indicates aerodynamic stability under fuel burn and tire wear. Two forces that often destabilize balance. And it opens strategic flexibility. If a car can hold consistent pace deep into a stint, it allows teams to stretch windows, to respond to undercuts, to pressure rivals into earlier stops. That changes race control. Instead of reacting, Ferrari can dictate. And when Hamilton dictates tempo, he does not waste opportunities. He builds them. This is the difference between being fast and being dangerous. Fast cars win moments. Dangerous cars win championships. Bahrain suggested Ferrari may now have the latter, but the broader implication stretches beyond one weekend. Bahrain did not scream. It whispered. No dramatic headline lap defined it, no explosive claim dominated conversation. Instead, signals appeared inside long runs. Fuel programs, tire behavior, signals that only surface when a team builds for something beyond Saturday headlines. Ferrari did not show everything. They showed enough. And Hamilton did the rest. This is not nostalgia, not emotion, not blind belief. It is pattern recognition. When preparation replaces improvisation, performance stabilizes. When performance stabilizes, championships become realistic. But foundations must hold under pressure, and that pressure is coming. What Bahrain revealed was not spectacle, it was structure. Inside race simulations, where fuel weight exposes aerodynamic weakness and tire degradation punishes instability, Ferrari looked controlled. Hamilton looked aligned. The numbers held under variation. The platform adapted as track conditions evolved. The red flag moment reflected boundary testing, not fragility. Most importantly, the philosophical gap between car and driver appeared to close. Hamilton does not require reinvention. He requires responsiveness, a chassis that communicates, a rear axle that remains stable under stress, a front end that trusts entry speed. Bahrain suggested he has it, and when intelligence under pressure is paired with mechanical stability, execution becomes repeatable. Repeatability becomes momentum. Momentum becomes championship threat. But foundations built in February must survive April, July, and November, because long runs in testing are signals, Sundays are verdicts. So here is the real question. Was Bahrain the quiet beginning of another championship-caliber campaign for Lewis Hamilton? Or was it a perfectly disguised preseason illusion? One that will be tested brutally once points are on the table. The data suggested control. The long runs suggested alignment. The composure suggested readiness. But Formula One rarely rewards early conclusions. If the foundation Ferrari built in Bahrain holds under real race pressure, 2026 could shift quickly. If it cracks, the narrative changes just as fast. So is this the return of controlled dominance, or does the grid still have an answer waiting? The season will decide.